First fruit versus leftovers. If you're in the middle of addiction, you know that you're not giving it your best. It's hard to give our first fruit of the day to those that we love, to ourselves, to God, to anybody really. If we're clamped down in addiction, stuck in that daily process of drinking, thinking about drinking, and planning our drinking sessions. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Josh, living life alcohol free. If you're returning, thank you guys so much for being here and following the channel. I appreciate everybody being here. So let's dive right into this. When we are stuck in addiction, it's hard for us to acknowledge the power of our thought. And when we are able to give a little bit of attention to our issues with alcohol, our issues with ruminating about things that are not necessarily good for us, and we're able to feel better and live better, we're able to give ourselves and those that we care about the first fruit of our day, of our life, of our existence. When we're drinking all the time, we're thinking about alcohol all the time, we're just running on fumes. We're angry, we're irritable, we're on edge, we're anxious. It's hard to really give ourselves what we really need, which is compassion. We need to be kind to ourselves. We need to be uh, gentle. We need to give ourselves grace. We need to treat ourselves like we would treat a best friend. Oftentimes, we treat ourselves like our worst enemy, especially if we're stuck in addiction. If we're drinking every day and we're leaning on alcohol to cope and we're binge drinking and just using it to live life, we're not able to really take care of ourselves and give ourselves what we need. I started thinking about this first fruit versus leftovers because I started watching a couple Bible sermons, and it really gave me the idea of, when I wake up in the morning, I'm guilty of it, and I'll keep it 100 with you guys. I mean, I don't go straight to prayer. I don't go straight to scripture. I go straight to my phone. Now, I'm trying to be better at it this week since I listened to that sermon. And instead of opening my phone and scrolling on Facebook and YouTube and giving my time to those things that fill my mind that aren't necessarily good for me, I'm starting to open up my Bible app, read scripture. If I don't understand something or don't know the time period or who's speaking or what they're speaking about, I can look it up. I can spend time in it and really understand it. And then when I go to read it again later, it might be in a few months, it might be next year, but I know what it's saying because I spent the time on it. I gave God my first fruit of the day. And then on Sunday, I give God my first fruit of the week. Instead of Monday, starting on Monday, and you get a case of the Mondays, and everybody kind of dreads going back to work, and getting bogged down in the week, and it starts on Monday. Instead of starting our week on Monday, and I always used to do that. I always used to stay. I used to say I'm gonna eat better starting on Monday. I'm gonna quit drinking starting on Monday. I'm gonna do this, and it's like I'm gonna start fresh on Monday. But instead of starting on Monday, maybe Sunday is a better day to start that process. Most of the time, most of my life, especially as a drinker, I kind of dreaded Sundays because it was like the repeat of my work week was going to be starting on Monday, and I would just kind of feel anxious, feel irritable, feel like, oh man, it's already over, it's already back to square one, and just be dreading it. But instead of doing that, and that's what the beauty of being alcohol free, one of the beautiful things about being alcohol free is that we're growing. And I heard recently on one podcast, and it was Tony Robbins, and he said, you know, if you're not busy growing, you're busy dying. You know, in relationships, if your relationship isn't growing, it's dying. It needs attention. It needs vibrancy. It needs life. So we can focus on those things, and we're growing. And that's what it's like in recovery. It's like one day is a new day to grow and to learn something new, to go somewhere new, to experience something that we haven't experienced before in a different way. And that's what true growth really is spending time doing things that we may need to work on. Maybe we don't need to work on it necessarily, but we need to curate it. We need to, prune it, kind of like we would do with our garden. We need to weed the garden. We need to, because if we're just going out there and chopping the weeds down, we're not getting it from the base. We're not pulling that weed out from the ground where it needs to be pulled out from, and doing the hard work and getting our hands and our knees and our feet dirty. Sometimes we need to do that in order to stay healthy. So I started this basically because of my faith and my belief in God, and how I lean on scripture to help me in my day. But it can also like lead to a better way of life for just ourselves. We don't give ourselves the first fruit of the day. We don't give God the first fruit of the day, whatever your belief system is. We need to give our first fruits to what's important to us. Let's just put it that way. Whatever it is that's important to you in your daily life, that's what we need to give our first fruit to. And we can't do that when we're bogged down in scrolling and reading social media and watching the news and just tearing ourselves down, and then trying to give our fruit to those things that matter to us. We need to start that at the first part of the day. And then to start the week, we need to give it to the first part of the week and start our weeks off solid. If you're trying to quit drinking, just getting through the urges to drink is the number one goal. If you are curious about alcohol, thinking about your drinking session is like the first thing you need to think about while you're drinking. Don't forget about where you're at. Don't forget about, and if you do drink, don't beat yourself up and wonder why you're still stuck in this. This takes time. It takes effort. It takes these lessons and these trials and tribulations to get to the other side. If you're thinking about quitting, that's the first step. So you're doing a great job. Uh, but if you're sober and you're not seeing the fruits of your labor, and you're not seeing the fruits of the benefits of being alcohol free yet, this is a good way to start. We're able to acknowledge it. We're able to write things down. Journaling is so important. Thinking about things that you're grateful for, that's another thing that can really help in your life, in your day. I would wake up, for the past several months. I would wake up and I would think of three things that I was grateful for to begin the day. And this has been a slow process to getting to where I want to be. I started When I first quit drinking. I really did start my routine in the morning right away. I didn't typically get out of bed and take care of my hygiene right away. Shower, make my bed, and get off to the right start like that. I'd roll out of bed. It didn't matter what my hair and my face looked like. It didn't matter what my bed and my room looked like. It didn't, none of that really mattered. I had to roll out of bed and take care of the things that I had to. And by the time I was done taking care of those things, I was ready to go back to bed, and, I'm glad to be out of that cycle, but I think it's important to remember where I was, not just for myself, but for you guys, to kind of, as a reminder, uh, first fruit of the day is so important, and it can nourish us for the rest of the day and the rest of the week. And I'm getting older, and physically, I'm starting to get achy and get aches and pains like I didn't before. Especially, I got this foot issue that just lingers, and now I got a knee issue that lingers, and both on the same side, and it's annoying. But I stretch every morning. I ice. I take medication if I need to, Tylenol or Motrin, and I move on with my day, and I do the best that I can. And that's all we can really do. And that's what it's like with recovery as well. Not every day is easy. Not every day is pink cloud. Not every day we're floating, on a pink cloud, and on cloud nine. But, it's like, if we wake up and we start our routine with these healthy things, these first fruits, and not bog ourselves down with things and inundate ourselves with things that aren't necessarily good for us. Now, sometimes things are out of our control. Like when we leave the house, who knows what's going to happen? In that same podcast, he brought up, and I might do a video on both of these topics. But Tony Robbins brought up the difference between a journey and a trip. And a trip is, what's coming. You know what it's going to be. A journey, you don't know what's going to happen. And that's what's best about this journey of being alcohol free, is like, you never know what's going to happen, but it's growth, because we're adding on every day different things, different ways and techniques that help us get us to where we want to go ultimately. And for me, I know that I just want to live a healthy life. I want to be able to have healthy relationships. I want to be able to look myself in the mirror and know and be honest that I'm doing the best that I can. And it's not always that way. Like I said, I struggle recently. I was telling you guys that I struggle with scrolling on Facebook. That's something that I do, that when I spend 5 minutes on that, I realize that 90% of the stuff, maybe even more than that, is stuff that I wouldn't normally see if I wasn't on Facebook. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Uh, I've always been somebody who loves current events, breaking news. It excites me. Political stuff, it doesn't really matter what it is, but it's like sports stuff. Um, but I want to know, like, right away what's going on. I gotta. It makes me feel like I'm part of, like a team, or like there's a camaraderie there. I'm aware of what's going on. And sometimes there's people that don't know what's going on, and you share that with them, and they're like, I don't, I have no idea. I didn't hear about that. But sometimes I wish that was me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just oblivious to all the things that are going on in this world, and maybe that's better. You know what I mean? And so I try to kind of like steer clear of that more than I have, and that means putting my phone down, reading a book. I like having physical books. I started buying them, and if you guys follow the channel, you know that I started this routine this year, and my goal this year, my resolution this year, was to read 12 books, so one a month. Um, I'm right at about that 12. Uh, I've been doing pretty much a book every month, maybe a book every 3 weeks. But I started buying books at the beginning of the year, and now I don't have. After about 4 or 5 books, I was already running out of space in my drawer, so I don't have bookshelves or anything. So that might be something that I do next year: build a bookshelf or buy a bookshelf and put it together. Um, but I started renting books from the library, and I just found that it gave me a time frame. You get 3 weeks, so sometimes I finish it in a couple weeks, but give or take, a few days. But I get it back, and then I don't have to keep it on my bookshelf, and I don't have to buy it new or buy it used. I rent it, and sometimes I have to wait for it, and I'll read something in the meantime, and then I'll get it. I'll get a notification that it's ready to be picked up. But that's my routine, and that's something that I do to kind of curb the urges to just scroll or spend time on my phone doing things that I don't normally really don't need to do, you know. And but I noticed that this year that was something that I wanted to change. Like I said, I read the Bible from cover to cover last year, and that really helped me get to a place where I could understand Scripture more. I spent more time in it, and this year I was missing that, so I decided to pick Scripture back up. And I have a Bible app on my phone, and it comes in handy. But I found myself like doing it while I was doing my stretching in the morning, and so I wasn't really in it. You know what I mean? I was trying to do two things at once, and I wasn't really paying that close of attention to the actual like reading of the Bible, just listening to it audibly. So that was something that I had to consciously do and start this week, where I would just spend, and I spend probably a half an hour on it now. And that's another addition to my routine, but it's better than scrolling. It's better than sitting there. You know, I get up early, I have my coffee, I feed my dogs, and I typically, after I do those things, I just sit around. And then, but now I go straight to stretching, or I go straight to scripture. And then I get on with my day. But I typically do both of those things, and they help me start my day in a positive way. And then when Sunday arrives, I'm not looking at Monday like I typically would have before. I'm kind of looking at Sunday as like the beginning of my week. I'm giving God uh, His glory. I'm focusing on that, on God, on Scripture, and then I start my week on Sunday now, and it almost feels better that way, because I'm not worried and bogged down in my own things, my own anxieties and issues, and that really does help. So if you're new to sobriety, I'm so glad that you're here. If you are curious about what alcohol-free life can be like, um, I think my title of this thumbnail is going to be "Diary of a Dead Drunk." um, I don't know. It just kind of made me laugh. At the same time, when I think about if you're not growing, you're dying. It really does capture what it's like to be stuck in addiction and drinking all the time. It just feels like we're dying. It just feels like death all the time, or we're worried about death, or we're worried about feeling sick and getting sick, and that's not really any good way to live. So that's what I'm going to do. And if you guys want to become members, please click down on the memberships. Any level of membership would be huge. I'm gonna have some live streams for members only. I'll have some videos, some early release videos, some shorts, some probably some stickers and things like that to go along with all those. Super thanks is huge. If you want to donate to the channel, keep this channel going, support the channel, and that way, monetary. Of course, I'm going to continue making free videos, but that's just a way to support the channel. And any amount I would appreciate. Um, if you need a group, I've got a private Facebook group on Facebook, and I'll pin the link in the comments below for that. It's called Sobriety in the Storm. And other than that, please check out my last video. Stay tuned for a video coming out on Wednesday, and we'll see you later. I hope you have a great sober Sunday, and I hope that your week gets started off right and you're able to find solace in being alcohol free. So have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you soon.